Dr. Jewel is going to be joining us via phone. She is not available to be here today. And just for minutes and sake, we actually adjourned our executive session this evening at 6:25 p.m. So at this time, I'd like to ask Director Hamada to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Would you all please rise? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I'd like to welcome our audience to the meeting. This is a meeting of the Kent School District Board, which is held in public to comply with the Open Public Meetings Act. We welcome the public's participation in this board meeting and thank those of you who have come out to this meeting and those who are viewing in our live stream. The KSD staff has done its best to advise you of the governor's order requiring those in attendance to wear masks. The process for audience participation is as follows. The purpose of board meetings is for the board to conduct its business in public. During the meeting, the board will listen to but not respond to comments from visitors. Those wishing to comment must complete a comment card and turn it in to Naomi Zantinello either before the meeting begins or no later than agenda item 4.01, the legislative report. No cards will be accepted once the legislative report has begun. And I believe, Ms. Zantello, there's a box back there for the comment cards, right back, a blue box right on the table back there. Visitors who've completed a comment card indicating a desire to speak to an agenda item will be called at that portion of the agenda. There is a brief delay in the live stream audio. We will allow for time for you to make your way to the boardroom if you are in the overflow room. When it is your turn to address the board, your mask needs to remain on while making your comment. Please state your name at the start of your testimony. Public comments will be heard after opening, during preliminary communication from the audience at specific agenda items, and during final communication from the audience. Students will be the first to speak on any topic. Please limit your remarks to 3 minutes. You will hear a timer when the 3 minutes are up. Please do not use specific names of staff or students or personal identifiable information. Abusive public comments personally directed towards staff or board members will not be tolerated. The president may interrupt or terminate an individual's statement when it is too lengthy, obscene, or irrelevant. Per board procedure, written material to provide board members with background information should be submitted to the superintendent's office at least 1 week in advance of the meeting. Director Venkatachalam, will you please read our land acknowledgement?
Yes, I will. We acknowledge we are gathered upon the ancestral lands of the Muckleshoot Indian tribe, who historically lived throughout the area between the Cascade Mountains and Puget Sound.
Interim Superintendent Vela, are there any changes to the agenda?
Yes, President Daniels, a supplemental personnel report has been added to the consent agenda as item 7.07.
Thank you. Will a board member make a motion?
I move that we add the supplemental personnel report, item 707.
I second.
It has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor of approving adding agenda item 7.07, the supplemental report to the agenda, the consent agenda, please indicate by raising your right hand and saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed indicate by raising your right hand and saying no. Are there any abstentions? Motion carries. We are on to agenda item number 2.0, our communication from the audience. And I currently have 2 comment cards. Are there, this is it? Okay. So I will call on the folks, and please go to the podium there to state your comments. I'll call in Ms. Cheryl Jackson first.
I'll keep this short. Okay, my name is Cheryl Unaba Jackson, and I have had 34 years of teaching music in the Renton School District, and I am a 25-year resident of Kent. I would just like to comment briefly on the critical race theory by a minority person, 3rd generation Japanese American. This country's current practice of CRT is mandating, of course, that it be taught from K through high school grades. Using diversity in education is indeed very important. Recognizing and honoring creative understanding of racial minorities and their important roles in modern society and respecting them is really what we are doing as a nation. However, as a minority, I have questions reservations and some disagreement with the CRT being promoted in our country. The concept about oppressed and oppressors bothers me because I do understand the unconscionable suffering some racial groups had to endure. For instance, slavery and Japanese forced to live in internment camps, as my aunt did during World War II. The critical race theory has reminded of all races of unspeakable suffering by minorities, always. I truly believe that critical race theory is divisive, including everyone in American society. This belief, promotion, and mandates cause fissures, suffering, and unnecessary stress. Excuse me. I feel general social studies may briefly teach, but we are using it excessively. Thanks for listening to me. As President Biden said, we're going to be a united country.
Mr. Paul Hunt.
Thank you. I've got a son over at Panther Lake in 4th grade. So as far as in the school, on the governor's order, the communications that have gone out, I'm just curious for additional information of what date that all staff have to be vaccinated by, what percentage is vaccinated, but also those that will be getting let go once they have not been vaccinated. What is the plan for the students' classes, as if they, depending on what that percentage is, in order to, are there enough subs in the district that will fill it till new people are hired? So appreciate those concerns. Thank you.
All right, we are on to agenda item 3.0, the interim superintendent report.
This evening, I'm pleased to provide some critical updates about the 2021-22 school year, as more and more exceed the end of our second full week of school. Well, I recognize that not everything has gone perfectly. What I have seen in my school visits since our first day of school is a valiant effort by Team KSD, enthusiastic learners, and teamwork. I want to publicly acknowledge the daily efforts of our principals, office staff, educators, bus drivers, and all Team KSD members who come to work each day ready to serve our students. Thank you for all you do. As we continue to operate during this pandemic, the safety of students and staff remains my first priority. To that end, I want to share some key reminders and updates about our mitigation strategies to maximize safety in all KSD buildings. First, all staff and students must wear masks in the KSD building or on the bus. I see this happen. In particular, I continue to witness our students doing an excellent job wearing their masks and following staff directions. And our staff is modeling this for them. Second, physical distancing. The changes in physical distancing guidance from the state this year have allowed us to come back to school in person. At a meeting this morning with regional superintendents and King County public health officials, I was relieved to hear that the statewide change in physical distance in the classroom to 3 feet has not resulted in an increase in positive school cases. In fact, this year's guidance changes allow fewer students to be excluded when there is a case and still keep students safe. Across the district, we continue to maximize physical distancing for students at possible as staffing permits, using outside spaces, weather permits, and ensuring our adult-only meetings are held virtually when they cannot be physical distancing. Additionally, in response to increased COVID-19 in our community, at this time, all parent and family meetings with KSD staff will be held virtually via Microsoft Teams. This means curriculum nights, open houses, parent-teacher conferences, etc. will also be remote. Virtual family meetings and events this fall is just one more way we can all work together to keep our students and staff healthy and learning in person. Third, last week, we launched our vaccination verification process for all KSD staff. Our employees have the information and tools they need about the state mandated vaccinations, exemption information, and protocols, and support from our human resources, legal, and technology services team to support them in completing the process. I appreciate the teams working tirelessly to help our staff through this process as the October 18th deadline quickly approaches. We're also working to hold additional district vaccination clinics like those offered last year. Because we know beyond compliance with state law for masking and our layered mitigation approach in schools, vaccinations are also vital for a safe learning and work environment district-wide. As for right now, I'm pleased to share that there have been some positive student and staff cases this school year. Our mitigation strategies and reporting systems are working. Should the need arise, our principals and teachers know how to support a classroom or school closure and will be ready to do so. Continue to monitor data on cases and transmission and vaccination data in the KSD community. I sincerely hope that even though COVID-19 is prevalent in our country, our students and county continue to be safe for students because of our layered mitigation strategies. As we look ahead this school year, we continue to develop plans in partnership with our labor partners should the need arise to move to remote learning district-wide. In the same way, we have come together to plan potential classroom and individual school closures. And more plan for a district-wide pivot will be collaborative, prioritize safety and learning, and be student-centered. However, in a meeting with Superintendent Reichdahl today, he stated that while ongoing guidance changes are expected from the Department of Health, there are no metrics or thresholds on which the state would recommend a return to remote learning for all districts. Nevertheless, our work is to be ready should the need arise while focusing on teaching and learning each day. I know we can do this together. Excellence is often defined as doing the ordinary extraordinarily well. In KSD, student excellence is a balance of rigorous academic, social, and career skills. Our teachers and district staff will focus on social and emotional learning and support to meet our student needs and to impress me. I am grateful for their dedication and passion. In addition, the welcoming environments I have witnessed at schools on the first day and beyond have been inspiring. As we continue to settle into the school year, social emotional learning supports will continue to be necessary to ensure our students have an excellent year. I'm confident we will rise to meet the needs of our students. Finally, as we settle into the new school year, I look forward to sharing more information about enrollment data in our district with our board and community. Official state counts begin again this week. And as we have done in the past years, we will provide a detailed update in October of our 2021-22 enrollment. The staffing commitments made were the right decisions given our return in-person to in-person learning during the pandemic. We remain fiscally solvent as a district, and I look forward to continuing to work with our board and staff to keep us in a healthy financial position now and in the future. In closing, I want to say thank you again to our staff, our students, our families, and our community partners as we continue to work together this school year. We will get through this all together.
We are on to agenda item 4.0, the legislative update, and in-person public comment submission is now closed. Director Rangabasso.
Yes, thank you. I was hoping that this evening we would have an update from OSPI as interim superintendent mentioned. There are some guidance coming in the event that our kids and staff members are tested positive, and Right now, we have questions of what happens on our website, but we'll have some additional guidance that come out with public health. Most likely tomorrow, that will further clarify what happens when there's a COVID exposure, including some requirements for the districts to possibly go remote again. That's what I'm hearing from the education community, from the state. And the one thing that I have, we don't have a lot of updates. Obviously, legislation is not, legislators are not in session. So right now, we are, as board members, working throughout the state to get prepared for our General Assembly. And our General Assembly is where we really prioritize our legislative positions for the coming year. So this year, we are once again going to be represented. And we are going to bring forward one of the positions that we prioritized last year. We co-sponsored along with North Shore and Shoreline and Federal Way, Highline, Kennewick, and Quincy and Seattle Public Schools. And that is a position statement that WASDA, which is our directors organizations, we shall initiate and or support legislation and initiatives that promote innovative and intentional strategies to prepare, recruit, and retain individuals from diverse backgrounds and lived experiences to serve on local school boards. And it's a pretty lengthy position statement. We talked quite a bit about in a prior meeting, supporting school board directors, not only through compensation, but looking at support services that are needed to attract our diverse school board members. And so this particular proposal was brought forward by several legislators in the past, and it failed because the support wasn't there from board directors. And this year we feel we're going to have some strong recommendations coming from the board, and I am championing it along with North Shore. I will not be part of the board next year, so I think there's not a conflict of interest there. I will be advocating for our current board directors to be compensated for the enormous amount of work, time, dedication that is put into being a school board director. So I'm excited about that, championing that. Our assembly is end of October 29th and 30th. And the handbook has been passed around to staff members, and I'm hoping again this year we'll have a prioritization of our legislative proposals, and the board will also actively be involved and participate in that. And hopefully I will get to represent. It's on our calendar. And really, we have, I think, about 11 or 12 votes. So we're a very strong district in making those legislative changes happen. So I look forward to that. And that completes my report.
Thank you. We're on to agenda item 5.0, our proclamations. And we're going to begin with our proclamation for September Attendance Awareness Month. And I'm going to call on Vice President Benjer to read that proclamation.
Yes, September Attendance Awareness Month. Whereas good attendance is essential to student achievement and high school graduation, and we are committed to reducing chronic absenteeism rates with a focus starting as early as pre-kindergarten. Whereas chronic absence, which is missing 10% or more of school for any reason, including excused and unexcused absences, or just 2 or 3 days a month, is a proven predictor of academic struggle and dropout rate. Whereas improving attendance and reducing chronic absence takes commitment, collaboration, and tailored approaches to particular challenges and strengths in each community. Whereas research shows that chronic absences as early as pre-kindergarten and kindergarten is associated with lower third grade reading scores, sixth grade course failure, and an increased dropout rate for ninth graders. Whereas chronic absence can be significantly reduced when schools, parents, and communities work together to monitor and promote good attendance and address hurdles that keep children from getting to school. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Directors of the Kent School District proclaim that our schools will stand with the nation in recognizing September as Attendance Awareness Month. We hereby commit to high student achievement and reducing chronic absenteeism to give all children an equitable opportunity to learn, grow, and thrive academically, emotionally, and socially. Signed this 8th day of September 2021 by the Kent School District Board of Directors and Interim Secretary to the Board, Israel Vela.
Right, 5.02, our proclamation for National Hispanic Heritage Month. Director Bennett, will you please read that proclamation?
Yes, will do. Thank you. National Hispanic Heritage Month. Whereas September 15th through October 15th is celebrated throughout the United States as National Hispanic Heritage Month, providing an opportunity to honor the contributions of Hispanic leaders and students of the Kent School District and our community. And whereas this year's theme, Esperanza, a celebration of Hispanic heritage and hope, invites us to celebrate Hispanic heritage and to reflect on how great our tomorrow can be if we hold on to our resilience and hope. It encourages us to reflect on all the contributions Hispanics have made in the past and will continue to make in the future. It is also a reminder that we are stronger together. Whereas in the Kent School District, the Hispanic community now constitutes 23.6% of the district's student population, with more than 5,975 students identifying as Hispanic. And whereas the Kent School District is committed to the promise that regardless of where students come from or what they look like, all are afforded an equal opportunity to graduate from the Kent School District as young adults who are globally competitive learners prepared to excel in college, careers, and in life. And whereas the Kent School District is dedicated to working together to address the challenges still facing Hispanic students in equity and access so they may prosper in school in King County, in Washington State, and around the world. Therefore, be it resolved, the Kent School District Board of Directors recognizes September 15th through October 15th, 2021 as National Hispanic Heritage Month with the intention that Hispanic heritage be recognized, discussed, and celebrated in Kent School District schools and classrooms during that time. Signed this 8th day of September 2021 by the Kent School District Board of Directors and Interim Superintendent Israel Vela. And thank you. And we're going to call on a special guest, Miria Munoz, to come accept the proclamation.
Well, thank you so much. It's great to be here with all of you in person after all this time. And I just want to thank you, Dr. Vela, board members, school and district staff and community members. It is an honor to receive this proclamation on behalf of our large and growing Latino community in Kent and across South King County. At St. Vincent de Paul and Central Rendu, that's where I work, we see hundreds of families every year who walk into our center seeking basic needs, connection to resources, community, and a sense of belonging. At Central Rendu, just down the street from us here tonight, we receive Monday through Friday mothers who walk into our safe space seeking answers to their many questions, life challenges, family crisis, and connection to resources in their own native language, because Latino mothers love their children too and want, like everyone else, to see their children succeed in school. Our partnership with the Kent School District is vital to the success of our Latino families. We need more programs that address cultural and language barriers as we also continue to work towards equity, inclusion, and representation. As a community, we are thrilled to have Dr. Vela's leadership at the very top, because it will show our children que sí se puede. I would like now to turn the microphone to David Lujano, a key member of our community, a champion of our kids, and Central Rendu's youth program manager. He will introduce Vanessa, a wonderful young lady, a Latina Kent School District student from Kent Lake High School, who is actively participating in our at-risk youth prevention program, Reroute. She's accompanied by her mentor and youth program manager tonight, Soledad Wirt. As her mom was unable to attend tonight due to a last-minute work commitment, This is the hard reality of our working Latina mothers who continue to struggle, to juggle multiple challenges and responsibilities. So thank you, Vanessa, for being here, Soledad and David.
Thank you, everyone, for this opportunity to be here today, and especially to see some familiar faces that I haven't seen in a while. As a youth program manager, we developed this program here in Canton. It's called Reroute. And Reroute has been present for the last 4 years in the city of Canton, where we participate in many different events, supporting our community, supporting our youth and families. But most importantly, we support our youth, middle schoolers and high schoolers to make sure they get what they need. Reroute focus in two main categories, which one is academics, and as we know, attendance and being out of school is pretty common now because of COVID, so many other reasons. So we develop a relationship with the school district, with the schools in general, to cultivate those relationships. So once we talk to our youth and we invite our youth to our group, we share those relationships so they can, try out some other adults within the school system. So that way they can feel welcome and they can be successful. The other area that we focus on is the behavior part to it. A lot of our guys, middle schoolers, they begin the fights, they begin to start getting in trouble. And so we conduct groups every Saturday for 3 cohorts through the year. So we serve over 100 kids through the year through 3 different cohorts. And these 3 cohorts, we focus a lot on the social emotional learning, where we bring a lot of lessons, decision making, knowing yourself, and how to create different healthy relationships around you. And once they finish the first cohort, we give them an opportunity to be mentors to the next cohort. And if they still want to be with us, they get the chance to be in the leadership group, which now we have up to 22 participants. And Vanessa happens to be one of them. She has gone through the reroute as a participant for 3 months. She became to be a mentor for 3 months. And now she serves as a leader, helping the community, different events. She currently just went to Washington, D.C. because we were able to connect with a close-up foundation that helped us to get our guys to a different experience. And so I'm going to let her talk about that, but thank you so much for the opportunity.
Well, good afternoon. Thank you for having us. My name is Vanessa. I am a student at Kent Lake. I'm 16 and I attend Reroute as a leader. And I've been in Reroute for over a year now, going to be 2 in a couple of months. I don't know if you wanna.
Yeah, so hi everyone, I'm Soledad, the youth program coordinator. This is our leader, Vanessa. And my question for you, Vanessa, to get the conversation started today is, so how has Reroute personally impacted your life? And why do you believe that this Latino youth program is important and worth having?
So Reroute has had an important, a big impact in my life, not just Reroute the program, but also the staff that are in it, such as David and Soledad and Media. So basically, when I started high school, I was a freshman and I had a struggle with attendance, behavioral, and just being around people that were gonna do me good. I wasn't attending school every day. I was getting bad grades, disrespecting teachers, not doing school. So my mom had a struggle with that. And when I came into this group, obviously I met David and I was a little shy coming in and being a little scared of just not being able to complete this whole program. Throughout the months, I saw that this wasn't just a program where it was just like, David was just a staff member and was just trying to get his work done of me doing better, but we grew a strong bond together. And this is what I love about this program is that we don't get to be like, this is a staff member and this is a participant. It's on a much higher level. You get to bond with these amazing staff, like on a new level, family. They get to meet your family and the trust that has been built over the months has been amazing. They impacted my life. I could see the little changes that I've made throughout the year, and it's been amazing. Now I am doing so much better. Currently next year, I'm going to start doing Running Start because they've also driven me to start a little college a little bit earlier than usual. But this has had a great impact on my family and on me, and it's done me so much better. And this is a great invest for us because it helps a lot of Latino youth. Since I go to Kent Lake doesn't know about this program as much as Kent Meridian or Mill Creek Middle School. But I think it would be a great opportunity for kids to start, being able to see that they do have a chance to do better, that they're not alone, that they have people that care and are going to be willing to sacrifice their time out of their day to be there and to support them. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I know your mother wasn't able to be here, but this is live streamed, so she could watch it at another time. So we video recorded. Yeah, thank you. All right, we are on to our agenda items under items for discussion and approval. Agenda item 6.01, the interim superintendent contract extension for Israel Vela. Is there a motion?
I move that we extend the interim superintendent contract for another 30 days.
I second.
It has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? So I have discussion. So that's not in the language of what you just said is not in the language of the contract.
Yeah, I can. Good evening to the board. One of the proposed changes was to extend the interim superintendent's contract, not for a period of time definite, but until the appointment of a successor. And because there was a worry about how much time that would take, and here we're at 30 days and what it would require another 30 days. And so the recommended language was to extend the contract until the board appoints a successor. That would allow the process to play out and also not require us to come back and make another extension if we needed it. So that's the actual verbiage that's included.
So then for clarity, so do we need to vote on that motion and then request a different motion, or can she amend her motion?
You can amend the motion. As we've discussed previously, there can be an amendment to the motion as long as it's voted on. That is a acceptable process to amend a motion.
I'll guarantee I accept a friendly amendment to the motion. You want me to restate it?
Would you? Yeah.
How about if you help me, Curtis, so I make sure I get this right?
Yes, so the extension would be until such time as the board announces appoints a successor.
Okay, I move, I accept a friendly amendment that on 6.01, that we accept, we extend interim superintendent's contract until such time the board
Appoints
appoints
a successor.
a successor. Thank you.
I second.
It has been moved and seconded. Okay. Is there any additional discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor of approving agenda item 6.01, interim superintendent contract extension for Israel Vela, please indicate by raising your right hand and saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed indicate by raising your right hand and saying no. Any abstentions? Motion carries.
I'm going to be that guy, and you just voted on the amendment, and I'm going to ask you to vote on the motion again, if that's okay, just for clarity. Thank you.
So can someone make a motion then to approve that the language that's directly here, right?
So you've moved to amend, and now so the motion's been amended, so it's on the floor. You can vote on it now.
Okay, awesome. So is there, so I'm calling for the vote to approve the amended motion.
Correct.
Okay, so all those in favor of approving the amended motion for agenda item 6.01, please indicate by raising your right hand and saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please indicate by raising your right hand and saying no. Are there any abstentions? The motion carries.
Thank you.
Good. Okay. Thank you. We're on to agenda item 6.02, the selection of the 2021-2022 WASDA voting delegates. Is there a motion to, suggest anyone, someone for this position?
Do we move it and then discuss it? Because
Yes.
okay, I'll make the motion that we discuss and select the 2021-22 WASDA voting delegate.
I second.
Wait, so this is what was that correct?
Discuss and select.
Discuss, okay, thank you. It's been moved and seconded. Discussion.
First of all, I need to know who's going.
That was my question. I need more clarity on this.
Well, this came about because we didn't know, we have never done this in the past
Right.
until last year. The legislative rep typically represents the district during this assembly, but they have now made it a requirement that the board approve whoever goes. So I have volunteered to go, and I would like to go to represent some of these priorities, especially attracting our board directors.
So this is for in October.
October 29th, 30th. Yeah.
Yeah, and I fully support that because you have been involved in it the entire time. So it makes more sense that you have historic knowledge of the issues and the conversations and so.
No, and I absolutely support that.
Yeah.
I was not aware that you were going to go.
Yeah,
Okay.
I completely support as
Formal now.
well.
It
You've-
has to be formalized.
Yes.
it does, yeah.
I completely support. You've done so much hard work on behalf of school boards and the district, you know. above
Thank you, and I'll
beyond.
have an opportunity to weigh in on all the proposals before I go. So
I would agree with my colleagues, because we have a motion on the floor, like how would we amend it to add Director Venkatasalam as the delegate, since we said we were going to discuss and select? I guess I need more clarity on that based on the motion we
That was why I
have.
was asking the question. So do we need an additional motion or because we voted on the discussion, so we have to approve that and then we have to vote on Maya being selected, correct?
did we not
Venkatasalam?
say discuss and select? Or we didn't
We
state
did
that
say-
statement?
We
I
did
thought-
say discuss and select.
Oh, then
It's
I
a
think that's
selection.
good, right?
Okay.
I think we're good.
If that's good enough, then I'm okay with that. I totally support.
I believe it's sufficient.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. So it has been moved, seconded, and discussed. Is there any additional discussion? So all those in favor of the selection of Director Venkatasalam as the 2021-2022 WASDA voting delegate, please indicate by raising your right hand and saying aye. All those opposed indicate by raising your right hand and saying no. Are there any abstentions? The motion carries. We're on to 6.03, the 2021-2022 Kent School District and King County Sheriff School Resource Officer Services Contract. Is there a motion?
I move that we approve 6.03, 2021-2022 Kent School District and King County Sheriff School District Officer Services Contract.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any additional discussion?
My discussion is similar as before. We haven't had public meetings to get community or student involvement. So that would be my just concern, because we said that we would do that before we would look at the contracts or vote on the contracts.
And my comments are the same from our last meeting when this came up. The same exact thing. We promised we would have discussion with the public on this before the vote. And so
And I'd have to echo on that. That was my only concern in my last vote, that we had promised that we were going to bring forth a panel of youth to make this more public to our public and have a little bit more comment on it. So that's remains the same.
Yeah, I have a question about, it does state that we'll have community listening sessions. Do we talk about what that looks like? I'm sure it's after the vote, of course, but what does that mean?
I believe they're scheduled for October, correct?
Yeah, I'd
Oh,
like to invite our interim chief of operations and academic support, Mr. Randy Heath. Give us some more clarity.
Yes, good evening. Yes, we are planning them in October. We're going to hold them at the different high school sites so that we are in different areas of the community. We are working right now to try to work with the South King County Discipline Coalition as a possible one to help us facilitate those conversations so that we can be sure to try to capture authentic student voice and the community voice. So that is our plan.
The one question I had is, I noticed that the officer is also heading opposite direction to Northwood and Meeker. And how does that operationally, how is that going to work?
Yeah, no, that came actually from our discussions that we had with the board around that it was pointed out that we had some schools not being served, some secondary schools not being served. And so we talked to the county about adding those schools. We do realize that in emergency situations, 911 will be called and the closest officer will arrive. This would be more for this officer being able to respond to some lower level things, maybe a presence at those schools and have them see them as well.
Can I ask what these community meetings will look like? Who's facilitating? Who's going to be invited? Will there be language interpreters?
Right, and that is why we're trying to work with the community group to, help us put that on so that, maybe they can help understand what works the best to try to get authentic voice from our community. So like I said, we've talked a bit to the South King County Discipline Coalition. We haven't finalized anything. If they decide that they're not able to do that, then we will look for other groups to maybe help us have those conversations.
I just want to state, I think that's a great plan. I think what the problem is that in our last board meeting, it would have been great if we would have done this before we approve all these contracts, because there's so many people in our community that are not aware, that haven't had the exposure to the new laws, the new restrictions, the new trainings, and all, and I've had the privilege of working with a lot of our officers in a nonprofit, but I just think that's why we look like when we put these on here for voting, it would be much better for our public if we would have had educational piece before it. And I realize we're here, but I do appreciate that we're going to do this in October, but I think our public would have been a lot happy if we would have done this prior, and I just want that on the record.
And I don't disagree with that. I would like to say that we've had several sessions, including with South King County Coalition, some of the members who pointed out that they were not aware of the law and that our commissioned officers are not to intercept or get involved in any of the disciplinary activities. And I think that's a critical point, that they are to be only called in emergency situations. And so a lot of our community members were not aware of that. And so I would, I think Ms. Santello has put in some of the PowerPoint presentations and the discussions out on the previous, I think 2 weeks ago, put that into our board docs. So if anybody's interested in reading that or watching that or is interested in hearing more about it, we'd love to send that to you as well.
Because in actuality, the role of our so-called SROs or King County or police in our schools is majorly changed. And not to say that there aren't incidents that have happened, but we want to weed out anything like that does happen. But I mean, that's something our community doesn't have, that image of how it's more of a community policing type of job. And a lot of our kids benefit from that. Yes, there have been incidences and probably a lot that you can think in the past that has not changed. But our society is changing, our policing is changing, and our school officers in the schools are taking on a major different role. I've watched it myself and worked with a lot of them. And I just think that we cannot emphasize that educational piece because it's just a miscommunication. A lot of people don't understand that new take on of what they're going to try to do. And we need to get that message out for all of us to be successful. Thank you.
I think the education piece is also very important because even the community, as I've gotten responses about this, they're confusing like our school safety officers versus our resource officers. And I think there's a huge miscommunication about the difference between the two. And so I think an education piece would be really important as far as distinguishing the difference between the two positions. First of all, I think that's really important. But yeah, education, I think it's important. I also, going back to like the community meeting, I just remember talking to the students and the students saying, well, we want to lead these discussions because when adults come into the room or when the board comes or when teachers come, they bring their positionality with them. And then the students, when adults are around, aren't always going to be their authentic selves. So I think it's really important that we look at how we do those meetings and maybe having separate adult spaces and youth spaces so youth can speak freely and have youth facilitators lead those discussions while adults are in other places. I found in all my nonprofit work that I've done is that having youth spaces for youth only. If there's an adult in a youth space, youth will not speak or youth will not be their authentic selves. And I think that's really important as we look at having a community meeting. That's just my 2 cents.
And just to reiterate, if for anyone who didn't watch the last meeting, we promised that we would have these meetings before any vote. And we didn't have these meetings, and I think we need to keep our promises to the community. And so.
I'll call for the vote. All those in favor of approving agenda item 6.03, the 2021-2022 Kent School District and King County Sheriff School Resource Officer Services Contract, please indicate by raising your right hand and saying aye. Aye. All those opposed indicate by raising your right hand and saying no.
No.
Motion carries. Any abstentions? On to agenda item 6.04, the Lake Youngs Elementary Multipurpose Room Change Order Number 7. Is there a motion?
I move that we approve 6.04 Lake Youngs Elementary Multi-Purpose Room Change Order Number 7.
I second.
Okay, it has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion?
I just want to say thank you for all of those that answered our questions from the
Yes.
agenda 2x2 about Lake Youngs and things like that. I've been over there and it looks beautiful. It's going to be a nice facility for our students there.
I would say something. So I would think it's really important that when we have questions, we always get responses. So I really appreciate staff getting back to us with responses about the questions we had about that. So I really do appreciate that. And I think the building's going to look beautiful. And I think this is great.
All right, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor of approving agenda item 6.04, the Lake Youngs Elementary Multipurpose Room Change Order Number 7, please indicate by raising your right hand and saying aye.
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 All those opposed indicate by raising your right hand and saying no. Any abstentions? The motion carries. We're on to our consent agenda, items 7.01 through 7.07. Is there any agenda item that the board member would like to pull? Hearing none, I'll call for the motion then to approve consent agenda, items 7.01 through 7.07.
I move that we approve the consent agenda items 7.01 through 7.07.
I second.
Okay, it has been moved and seconded. Is there any additional discussion? Okay, I'll call for the vote. What is that? All those in favor of approving the consent agenda item 7.01 through 7.07, please indicate by raising your right hand and saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed indicate by raising your right hand and saying no. Any abstentions? Motion carries. There are several items there that are informational for the board's information and to review. And we are on to our final communication from the audience, which I believe, do we have any additional comments? No. Okay. All right, so we're on to our 9.02 board reports and discussion.
For me, sorry. Thank you. I wanted to say thank you. I know it's 2 weeks in or about to be 2 weeks in to the educator staff, facilities maintenance folks. Thank you for all your hard work. It's early in the year. It's tough and our students are happy to be back though. So I want to thank the staff for everything that you're doing. On Friday, August 27th, I visited some schools with interim Superintendent Vela. We went to Camp Meridian and Mill Creek and East Hill Elementary and looked at facilities and checked to see what was going on. I love being the schools. I love going at all the grade levels and seeing the different energies. Bless the elementary teachers. I'm a high school teacher. Thank you for your hard work. I love seeing the little ones. It was great. Not my energy, but it was very great. Thank you for all that you do. Director Vengadaslam and I went to the ribbon cutting at the Kent Laboratory Academy, and I presented a plaque to Principal Nip. The facility is beautiful. If you get a chance to go check it out, if they do another open house, just how innovative, how great it is at the old Panther Lake site. I was really impressed with how it looked and dedication to STEM and working with UW Tacoma. And I look forward to seeing more great things happening from the KLA. I also met with the Rainbow Educators of Kent yesterday. It's a group of educators who want to support LGBTQ plus students and educators in the district. I try to attend regularly, pop in and say, hey, there's some great things going on in our schools and there's some great things that they would like to do for the district. As far as upcoming meetings, I have no upcoming meetings on my calendar. I would love to fill it with meeting with student and student groups. Specifically, my goal is to meet with GSA clubs at middle schools and high schools. So if that's any principal, staff member at middle and high school, I'd love to meet with their groups. It's great to, again, I said this last time, it's great to be back in person at board meetings. I think it's important as we have our staff back in schools. It's great for us to be back in person, which is great. I'm also, since I'm a teacher, I'm back in the classroom and I started last week in Renton School District. And it's great to see my kiddos and great to see the energy of students. They appreciate being back and socializing and very respectful and doing everything they need to stay safe and sanitary. And I think that's a true testament for students really needing to be back and being supported and doing the best I can to support them and make them feel safe. As a student, physically, emotionally, that's always my goal as a health teacher and a psych teacher, is just to make sure my students feel welcomed and supported. So I'm happy to be back. So I hope everyone stays safe and healthy, and thank you so much for everything that everyone does. That's the end of my report.
It's not lost on me that, September Attendance Awareness Month and, we're dealing with this strange new world of COVID. So I acknowledge there are some people that are, there's worries out there. It's great to see kids in person. And I'm looking forward to hearing more from OSPI and things like that as we move forward. But it was good to see kids in person. I went with Interim Superintendent Vela to Kent Ridge and Meeker on the first day of school, and it was awesome. And again, I love seeing everyone physically distanced on campus and just all the students. It was great to see everyone. Invite me to your schools. I've been kind of waiting until you have a few weeks under your belt and things like that. But before it gets too rainy, when I can come visit and be socially distanced, I would love to come visit. So invite me to your schools. I just want to thank everyone in our schools for all your hard work and navigating all the different ins and outs and the strangeness of, kids being there or not being there for various reasons. So I really appreciate that. I want to thank everyone who's watching the meeting. I want to thank everyone who attended, and I always appreciate when people have public comments so we can hear. And I want to learn more about Reroute. I thank you so much for coming. Vanessa, especially, thank you so much for speaking. And David, Soledad, Miriam, thank you again so much for being here and sharing. It's great to hear what you're doing in our schools. So if there's any events you can invite me to, I'd love to attend. So again, I'm going to be brief. So thank you very much, everyone.
Well, it was great to see all the kids back in school. And on August 26th, the first day of school, I visited 2 schools, and the biggest challenge I had was just getting off the hill where I live by Kent Lake to my first school in the valley, because the traffic that morning was out of control. Anyway, I was really glad that I kept going, because I thought I'm never going to make it on time, even though I left way early. And I did pull into Neely, and I was only about 5 minutes late, unbelievably. I circled and finally a parking spot popped up. And it was really worth the persistence, because out in the middle, which I didn't know was going to happen, out in the middle of the playground, they had the kids and they were all lined up behind their teachers. And they had this great big backpack giveaway that one of our partners, Office Depot, and we have so many wonderful partners, including REWA and all these other organizations, helping our kiddos in different ways. But they gave them a beautiful, not a cheap, put together backpack. It was very nice. They could choose their colors. They had about 4 or 5 selections. And inside of those, they had multiple supplies that any child could need to start their school year, along with a gift certificate if they needed some other things. I was just pretty amazed. I mean, do you know how many kids that was and how many backpacks that was? And the kids were all fired up, and the teachers and the staff were doing a great job. And so that's a big shout out to our partners. And of course, the Philibus is another big event that goes on. I mean, we live in an unbelievably giving community. It's just pretty amazing. And then as I wanted to go on, we went on to Kentwood High School. I went on with our interim superintendent, Villa, and met President Daniels there and got a tour of what's going on at Kentwood. And as we were talking about, when we go through these and we approve money for like a multi-purpose room, well, that day I got to go in and I got to see a beautiful new office that Kentwood had, and a counseling room. And I got to see it with my own eyes. I took some pictures for my own pleasure and stuff, but it brings it so to life. And not only is it aesthetically pleasing, but the ability that they're going to be able to navigate and get their students through and have more counseling areas for them to do that. It's just amazing to see how a vote to approve that, how our taxpayers, how our community comes together with our levies to make that happen. It takes all that to get to there. And I wanted to, give a big shout out to Kentwood and the principal there and all their staff. And as I walked the halls, everything looked good. It was quiet. They were on task. And it was kind of in a high school. Usually, of course, I wasn't there when they changed classes. So it was pretty quiet, but it was the first day. So they're all on pretty good behavior the first day. And on August 28th, I was supposed to go to the ribbon cutting, and unfortunately I had a personal emergency at home that I had to take care of. So I did miss that ribbon cutting, and I'm sure it was wonderful. I want to see that school. Again, a couple of new schools that our taxpayers have so generously supported that is going to do so much for our kids. On September 3rd, I visited Covington Elementary. And my purpose there is I'm trying to isolate certain things I see on social media and get quite a few emails about. And I do a little research on it my own. And this is just the beginning of the research, but there's been a lot of talk about, is there enough time for lunches? Are the kids getting nutritious lunches? Are they being able to, have a good time and socialize a little bit instead of feeling like they're in a Gestapo where the whistles. I mean, I actually read emails and social media where kids are being treated like they're in the military or something. So I wanted to go out and see. And what I found when I pulled in the parking lot of Covington, that first of all, last year it was parking space in that school was a real problem. Well, I had no problem. There were 4 or 5 visitor parking open, and in the area behind it, which wasn't visitors, there was open parking. So somehow or the other, that's magically improved. And the grounds were well kept and cheerful flowers surrounding the entrance. The doors were locked, which they are, and my badge, of course, got me in pretty easily. And when I signed into the building, it was a welcoming and helpful atmosphere from all the people in the office. When I peeked into the classrooms, the kids were on task and learning, and it was quiet. Principal Price was right there to greet me, and friendly and professional. In the gym where I just sat down, I said, I don't want to be a problem. I just want to see what's going on, and quietly, don't make any fuss over me. And so they went through their logical day of lunchtime. They have several lunch times. Kindergartners were first. And what I did observe was the kids were pretty organized. They were spaced out in the kindergarten, and that they had plenty of time to eat. There were plenty of adults in there because some of the kids had trouble opening their things and everything, but they were right there to help them and encourage them. And all the kids had several choices. I walked through the lunch line. The packaging was attractive. The food was nutritiously, if they had several selections, they could even have chocolate milk if they didn't want regular milk and lots of things. So these are the things that I observed at Covington, and they were able to go out to recess. And the older kids, of course, there's a lot more older kids, so it's a little harder on the distancing. So that's a little bit of a concern because you got to fit all those kids in there, and somehow they got to eat. But that is, we're trying to do the best we can there. And it looked like so far in Covington that I honestly didn't see any real problems. But I'm going to go to different elementary schools and middle schools and high schools, try to tackle one a week to get my own data on this and see how that's going. Because a lot of our community members and a lot of our parents are up in arms about that. And again, I want to a big shout out to all our staff, administration, and students and parents who do what is necessary each day to make this a terrific year in very difficult times. And I'm going to conclude, which I conclude with always. Before I do that, I want a big shout out to REWA. I've done a lot of nonprofits, ran a nonprofit program before I was on the board with a lot of young men and women. And I'm great to see that. I'm up in Kent Lake area, so I'd like to come to your meeting. I want to see what your kids are doing. But I will conclude with my report, as I always do. Government institutions exist because the community feels there's a need to be developed for the common good. When decision makers of those institutions fail to listen to their constituents, they fail. And thank you for your report. And thanks for all of you coming tonight, putting up with us.
I'll make it brief. I want to first thank our friends from Central Randu. It's so great to see you, David, and Miria just left, but we go way back. And you do some amazing work, Vanessa. So that thank you for being here and speaking. We really value our partnership with you. You've been here many times before, and we don't want to just see you during Heritage Month. Please come back anytime. And I was thinking about the revitalization work up on Candice Hill that we all participated in many years ago when we went to see the Kent Laboratory Academy. The amount of work that went into getting that building up and running. It is completely revitalized, transformed Kent, and that was planning in action many years it took to get to that point. And I don't want to say this to make any of our staff members upset, but it has such a long history for several of us board members who were part of that process. And it was really disheartening that I didn't know anything about that particular meeting, and whether it was in a newsletter or whatever, that doesn't matter. It's the fact that that particular building holds so many memories for some of us board members. And, it should have been a very celebratory moment for those board members who made significant decisions on that building. And I happened to hear it from Director Beno mentioning it. I didn't know anything about it. And I'm hoping moving forward, these kinds of monumental events, for our district is shared, with the entire board, because we share a lot of difficult times, on the board. But we also need to be able to share in the glory of things that have gone, incredibly well. And that building is one of the very few things I feel like everybody in the community came together to make that happen. And there has never been any complaints about what happened with that building and the changes that were implemented in that building. So anyway, I just want to say, I'm hoping that we'll have similar, such events out in In the River Ridge.
Yeah.
And hopefully we'll all get to participate in that. But I thank you so much, Dave Buzzard and the building folks, all of those folks who worked so hard to get that up and running, Principal Nip, and our students who spoke, and just wonderful people who brought that together. And thank you to staff again for getting our buildings up and running for school and for all that you do. Have a good night.
I'll be brief as well. I want to thank all of those that are watching and that have joined us tonight. So we appreciate what you do. In particular, I'd like to thank Maria and David and Vanessa and Soledad. So it's really nice. I've also known them for many years in the work, and they've continued to be in this work and supporting families and students since the time that I've known them. So thank you for what you do. Your commitment is amazing and you truly do make a difference. And so I would love to invite you back to do a more expansive presentation on the work that you do. We'd love to have you come and do that at one of our board meetings. So thank you. I'd also like to thank our staff. Having the opportunity to visit the schools and yes, during passing time, it was very different. I had students asking me where to go. Unfortunately, I'm a little familiar with the school, so I was able to direct a couple, but just amazing to see the kids. They were happy. They were excited. The staff was excited. The staff was happy. It was truly amazing. We got to step into a couple of classrooms and we were welcomed. But really excited about this year and what it means for our kids and what it means for our staff and all of the work that has gone into it. And, you know I say it, I'm going to say it all the time. I don't know that everyone knows the amount of work that is required in order to make these things happen. And so you are so appreciated, our staff, everyone from administration on down, well, board administration, all the way down to, whoever, groundskeepers, whoever it is that, nutritionists, people that really impact our students daily. And we really, really appreciate it. It's a lot. And, and this issue in particular is personal because some people are nervous. There are people who are nervous about being in face-to-face contact and things, but they're doing it anyway because right now it's what's best for our kids. And so I really do appreciate that and the commitment that the staff has continued to have to this district since I have had the pleasure of being on the board and before. So I was attending meetings and I've been involved. So thank you so much. I wish you all a wonderful rest of the week, and it's been a great start to the school year, and I hope it continues. And at that, we are adjourned and have a wonderful evening.